I have received multiple questions, comments, people asking about Modern and commenting about the state of Modern Pokemon. If this is your first time here, I'm Kakashi with Kanto Capital and we discuss the financial side of Pokemon cards. If you enjoy the content, you can help support the channel just by liking and subscribing. I do also answer questions like this in Patreon and usually in more detail, and I do share my other insights on the hobby. I've received some really great feedback so far, so if you're interested, there's a link in the description. Okay, so I've received a lot of comments and questions asking about the state of modern Pokemon. People are essentially wondering if modern Pokemon cards are going to survive the mass printing and the speculation and the investors. Is modern Pokemon going to become, let's say, the new junk wax era that we saw in the 90s with sports cards? Is modern Pokemon going to have any value in the future? And so here's my very simple answer for you. 4 times your money. Comment and let me know if that sounds like good returns to you. But really, if I went to some fancy Wall Street guy and I said, Timmy, I have an investment that is going to quadruple, they would do one of two things. Wall Street Timmy would either beg me to reveal my secret, or he'd slap me with a Pikachu plush and tell me I'm full of it. So if you're thinking, that doesn't count, this has to be a great set. Great sets don't count to get that kind of profit. Well, just relax, let me finish. It's actually nothing special. In fact, most people would say this is actually a fairly mediocre set. And that set is Roaring Skies. Yes, Roaring Skies. Now, why would anyone care about this set? Well, let me tell you why it's special besides the fact that it's increased about 4 to 5 times if you bought it for $100 from day one. And you might be thinking right now, we're talking about modern. We're talking about the modern state of Pokemon. Why are you talking about a 6-year-old set? Well, Roaring Skies is very important. It's a very special set because back then it had a highly playable meta card that players absolutely needed to have, the Shaman EX, and so that really drove up the price and the demand of the set. And then suddenly Pokemon, which they don't do anymore, but Pokemon announced back then that Roaring Skies was officially out of print. They told everyone Roaring Skies is out of print. And that kind of created a little bit of chaos because players still needed cards from that box. And then now you have collectors who want Roaring Skies too because they suddenly realize it's out of print and it's going to be hard to get. And so we had this perfect storm of high demand where players need the cards because there's a must-have card inside, the collectors want it, and by the way, players usually need more than one card. And this demand ended up pushing the prices up big and it reached something like $250 to $300 a box. And then Pokemon, in a surprise move, even though they said that this set was out of print, they decided to reprint Roaring Skies. And then suddenly the prices just start crashing and the prices just flush out. And here's what's interesting is that at that time, a lot of people were pissed off because they pretty much got everyone mad. You upset the collectors who wanted to collect the box and maybe they bought it for $250, $300. Of course, the investors get harmed, but most people don't seem to care about the investors. And here's the thing, even some players got burned because they were paying high prices for sealed product and they were paying high prices for the cards that they needed because once again, they thought it was out of print and if you wanted to be competitive, you needed certain cards from that set. And the prices dropped really low. I want to say to something like $70 a booster box. Even the famous Rudy created the ultimate Pokemon bathroom thanks to Pokemon going overboard with the reprints. Roaring Skies is special because it's a great case study because it was hot. Collectors, investors, and players all helped drive the price up and then Pokemon just destroys the entire market and mass prints the set to the point that no one wanted any of it for years. The Pokemon bathroom was born. These cards in the sets, they were printed so heavily, it was considered basically just garbage. It was considered trash. Sets like Roaring Skies had so much supply, no one wanted it. There was so much, no one wanted it, and it was just considered junk. Does that sound a little bit familiar to you? There was too much supply, modern is worthless, just like people are saying today. But it was all temporary. It was only bad if you looked at it from the short term. It was only bad if you were buying at the very top, at the peak, at the highs. It wasn't that long ago that this was considered a very modern set, but today Roaring Skies is 6 years old. And a 3-year-old set sounds very recent, but a 6-year-old set, that's starting to sound a lot better. And if you add 4 more years, Roaring Skies is going to be 10 years old. Roaring Skies will be a decade old in just 4 more years. And today, Roaring Skies is back to a $400 to a $500 booster box. If you just held, you would have been up 4 times to 5 times your money. Roaring Skies was not a great set. The price went sky high because it had a high demand meta card that the players needed and people thought it was out of print. But as a collector's set, it's maybe a solid set depending on your outlook. Nothing spectacular, and on top of that, it was reprinted into oblivion. That tired old phrase that for some reason we love to use in Pokemon. The supply was so high, Pokemon printed so many cards and reprinted so much that the prices basically crashed to the point that no one wanted any of it. And that's actually worse than what we have today, because today Pokemon is just trying to meet demand. They aren't trying to flood the market like they did back then. The sports card companies, they know what happened in the 90s with the junk wax era, and Pokemon tried to be cute with reprints 5 years ago, and they paid for it because distributors and stores were literally scared to order product and get destroyed. And so Pokemon knows when they reprint today, it comes in calculated waves to meet demand, and they don't try to flood the market too crazy. And back then, it was just a lot worse. They basically just said, screw it. The printers asked, how much Roaring Skies do you want? And Pokemon just replied with, yes. And in the end, Roaring Skies, a reprinted into the ground, just okay, not a great set, after 6 years, is still up to a $400 to a $500 booster box. And the reason I'm talking about Roaring Skies instead of, let's say, something like Evolutions, for example, is because at least Evolutions has a lot going for it. Evolutions has multiple Charizards, Evolutions has the base set artwork, Evolutions has a hard to grade Charizard that's almost impossible to get in a PSA 10. It actually has quite a bit going for it, and so I think that's why the value is so much higher. But Roaring Skies is something else. It's special because it was expensive, and then it gets reprinted into the ground, and then it was so cheap and undesirable that people couldn't get rid of it. No one wanted it. It was much worse than what is happening today. And beyond a few desirable chase cards, there really isn't a ton of cards in that set that people would want today. If I told you to go buy Roaring Skies a year ago, every expert would tell you what a dumb idea that is. In fact, if someone asked me about Roaring Skies a year ago, even though I have a position in it, I'd still tell you to exercise extreme caution. And still, the box is recovered and it increased to $400 to $500 a box. If anything speaks to the strength of the Pokemon brand and Pokemon sealed product, this is it. If Roaring Skies can do it, that speaks loudly to the potential and the long-term strength of modern Pokemon. It was not that long ago that Roaring Skies booster boxes were considered junk. It was not that long ago that people hated getting Roaring Skies booster packs. Now I see people saying Roaring Skies is a very solid pickup. It's amazing what a little time and a little age can do to change the narrative. If I told you just buy this product and you're going to make 4 times to 5 times your money, everyone would be excited and telling you how great that is. But very few people have the strength to ride out the bad times. Most people, they panic, they get scared, they sell everything just to make a few bucks, and then they wipe their hands clean and say, yes, I made some money. And most people, quite frankly, don't have the stomach to buy when everyone and their mom thinks it's a bad idea. Buying low and selling high makes sense, but it's not easy, and most people don't do it. Now, I have no idea what happens in the future. I have no idea if holding modern is going to work out. But what's funny is that all of this has happened before. We have seen all of this happen before. Pokemon has had record demand, record print runs, once in a lifetime bull market, and everyone thinking that modern is going to be worthless, and then everyone just kind of thinks it's over. I know, because I thought the same thing about 10 years ago, and then it happened again in 2017. The exact same thing has happened before, multiple times. And then everyone says they wish they could go back 5 years and buy up everything, even though that is exactly the same mindset that everyone has today. History repeats. And so what I really want to say is, if you're not sure about modern, if you're a little bit uneasy about modern, but you believe in Pokemon long term, and that's the key thing. If you believe in Pokemon long term, if you do, don't overthink it. Just keep it simple. If you think Pokemon will continue to be a strong hobby, then players will continue to play the game, the pack rippers will continue to open packs, and the collectors will continue to collect. And if you just held a set like Roaring Skies and threw it in the bathroom like any normal person would do, and just rode it through all the ups and downs, and through all the negativity and the dark days of when distributors and retailers couldn't give this stuff away, with a reprint situation much worse than what we're seeing today, and you would still be sitting with a $400 to $500 booster box. Nothing fancy, it's not an amazing set, it was reprinted like crazy, there was record demand, it was reprinted into oblivion. No one wanted Roaring Skies. Everyone thought it was garbage, and it still recovered. The supply dried up, and it still went to $400 to $500 a box. Like, subscribe, check out the Patreon. I'm Kakashi with Kanto Capital. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.